One of the most common questions I've received the last year or so is about what cameras I'm traveling with to shoot my content. Today I'm going to share the 4 cameras that I travel with, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, because there are some things that I'm not crazy about with my system. I'm not going to go too much into accessories and tripods and mics and remotes and all of that kind of stuff because that would be an hour-long video. But if you'd like to see a what's in my camera bag video, let me know down in a comment below. And before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. If you need a website, the platform has literally everything you need to build it. So this first camera is what I would call my main camera, and it's the one that you guys seem to ask about the most. It is the Fuji XT2. Now, Fuji has since released the XT3, which does have quite a bit more in terms of features. So if you're interested in getting into Fuji cameras, I would recommend going for the XT3. But this XT2 has still been an amazing camera. I've really, really loved it. I use this for my still photography. I shoot 120 frames per second slow-mo video on it. And I also use this for all of my selfie photos, which if you guys follow me on Instagram or you've read my blog, a lot of the traveling photos that I have of myself, like off in the distance, are shot actually by myself on a tripod with this camera and a timer. This camera has a built-in interval timer feature, and it's probably my favorite thing about the entire camera because it is so easy to use. If you aren't familiar with an interval timer, instead of being like the classic, you set a timer for 10 seconds that counts down and you run to try and get in frame type of a timer, an interval timer will just continually take photos at whatever pace you want to set it at. So I typically set it at taking a photo every 1 second, and then I choose how long I want it to do that for, so I can choose it for 500 seconds if I want. And then it just starts shooting and I can go walk into frame, I can walk out on a cliff, I can turn around, I can twirl, I can jump, I can do whatever, and the camera is just continuously snapping photos. It's so handy for when I'm traveling by myself to get photos with me in them, because that's the #1 question that I get from you guys regarding solo travel is, how do you get pictures of yourself if you're traveling by yourself? Something else I really love about the Fuji body setup is I can adjust the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO all with exterior dials on the camera. So you can see all of these up here. You can just twist these dials to set those parameters where you want them. Aperture is down here on the lens, which means that if I'm out shooting and something happens unexpectedly and I need to change my settings really quickly, I'm not fumbling through an actual menu, like clicking around to try and change things. I can just twist, and go. And then a third thing I really love about this camera is the body is weather sealed. A lot of the Fuji lenses are weather sealed, and its minimum operating temperature is much lower than any other mirrorless camera that I've found. So the majority, at least as far as I've seen, of Canon, Nikon, and Sony cameras, all of the big brands, the minimum operating temperature for those cameras is 32 degrees. You're not supposed to use them any colder than freezing. People still do, you just have to be careful. The minimum temperature that the Fuji is rated for is 14 degrees Fahrenheit, which is significantly colder than 32, especially if you're trying to shoot in the winter. Like I was up in Whistler, BC back in January, and the daytime highs were like 22, 23 degrees. And I had my Fuji with me, I had a Canon with me, and the Canon froze and jammed and completely went dead and stopped working on me, and the Fuji operated just fine. There are a few things that I don't like about this camera or features that I wish it had. For example, I really wish it had IBIS, in-body image stabilization. I feel like that makes such a huge difference with shooting video because I do have some cameras that have it and the video is so much less shaky. Most of my Fuji lenses do have image stabilization in them, so that helps, but I would just like to have a body that has IBIS in it. I also wish it was full frame. It does have a crop sensor, and I wish it had a fully articulating screen, or a screen that just did more than it does, because it has one of those screens that like tilts out, or you can like click this back in here and like flip it out like this, but it's not really like a flexible screen. Oh, and the main lenses that I use to shoot on my XT2, because people do ask about this quite a bit, is the 35mm 2.0 and the 16mm 1.4. These are amazing primes. The 16 1.4 is awesome because you get that super wide angle, but you still get a depth of field, so it's awesome for travel. I'll also shoot on the 18-55, which was the kit lens that actually came with this if I want a zoom lens and I don't need as wide of an aperture. And also on my last trip, I just got back from Alaska, I rented the 50-140 2.8, which I rented it partially because it's a super expensive lens to buy, but also I thought I don't really have a need for that type of a lens in my everyday kit. And it is amazing, and it was so much more versatile than I thought it would be. If I'm going to add another Fuji lens to my lineup, that is the next one I'm going to buy. The second camera that I've been traveling with is what I would call my vlog camera, and I've been using the Canon M50. I actually just got this a couple of months ago. It's relatively new to my setup. This is a great little camera. It actually has a ton of features. This is the type of camera that, depending on what you're looking for, it could be the only thing that you travel with. You might not need something like the Fuji, because it does have the interchangeable lens system, so you can get a telephoto lens or a wide lens and take a variety of different types of shots with it. But also it has the flip out swivel screen, which is an essential for a vlog camera so that you can see yourself. I currently have the 15 to 45 millimeter lens on here, sans the lens cap because it popped off and it's missing somewhere around here and I need to find it. So things that I like about this camera. The reason that I upgraded a couple of months ago is I really wanted a camera that I could put an external microphone on, because the camera I was using before for vlogging was the Canon G7X, which is a great camera. This is such a nice camera, you guys. But there's no option to plug external audio into it. And you can get like a lavalier system or record your audio somewhere else and sync it. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted my audio already synced with my footage when I filmed it. So I wanted to upgrade to something that I could put a mic on. This is the mic that I'm using. If I put it on here, I plug it in. It has this dead cat wind muffler on it, so I can be out in really windy conditions and still have usable audio. Another thing I love about this camera is it has IBIS, which I was talking about a few minutes ago, the in-body image stabilization. So when I'm filming, it removes any kind of jittery shake and the footage just looks really nice and smooth. Now, for what I don't like about this camera, I have just kind of mixed feelings on it, especially because I changed from something that was quite a bit smaller. The biggest thing that I notice is it's a lot bigger and it's a lot less convenient, I guess, for a vlog camera. Like, this fits in a jacket pocket for me. I can go into a restaurant and just have this in my pocket. It's very inconspicuous. It's a lot more convenient to take around, where this is quite a bit bigger, clunkier. I definitely can't just put this in a pocket. And it's smaller than my XT2, but it's not like that much smaller. They're still like medium-sized cameras, but this doesn't have all the features that I love in this one, so I feel like I need both. But if you're looking for a vlog camera that's not super clunky, you can flip around the screen, it does do 60 frames per second slow-mo, you want IBIS, you can get a lot out of this camera and you can change the lenses and take some really amazing pictures as well. The third camera that I always travel with is definitely the funnest one to use, and it is my DJI Mavic Pro Platinum drone. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love flying my drone. It is one of my favorite things to do. Drone flying is so fun. And this drone is awesome because it folds up quite small. It doesn't take up a lot of room in my suitcase, but it's still pretty powerful. It's responsive, it's fast, it takes great footage. Aerial footage, just, it elevates a video on an entirely new level. Like, I just love aerial footage. I love including it in my videos. So now for the huge drawback of a drone like this is they're quite expensive and they are becoming increasingly difficult to legally fly in a lot of places. There are a lot of drone restrictions these days, which I am not against, because there are people who can be really reckless with drones, and you do want restrictions so they aren't flying around airports or over people. So I guess what I'm getting at is a drone is super fun to have. The footage is amazing to get, but it can be a little bit of a bummer when you splurge on a drone and then you really struggle to find places that you're actually able to fly it. But they are super fun. And then the last camera that I always like to travel with is my GoPro. This is the Hero 6 Black. They've since released the 7. I don't know if the 8 is out yet. I really only use this for true action things like swimming or zip lining or something where I wouldn't use any other kind of camera. It shoots 4K video, it has great stabilization, and it's a nice little camera to have on me. I mean, the downside is I don't use it for anything regular, like I would never vlog on it or shoot anything cinematic on it. I just realized that I guess my phone could be counted as a camera that I travel with as well, because I do use this a lot. This is the iPhone XS Max. It takes really nice photos and videos. I use this for Instagram stories and things like that. Also, it's nice because if I do have to ask a stranger to take a picture of me, everyone seems to know how to take a picture on a smartphone these days. So those are the cameras I've been traveling with recently. I hope this was helpful for those of you who've wanted to know more about what I shoot on and how I shoot with it. Everything that I just talked about will be listed and linked down below if you want to check it out. And if you're into travel photography or vlogging, I would love to know what cameras you use, because I'm always looking to try out something new. And like I've said throughout this video, there are a couple of things in my setup that I don't feel are perfect. And then last but not least, before I go, let's talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. I'm super excited to be partnering with them because last year when I decided to tear down my old website and build a completely new blog, I used them before I was ever affiliated with them, and it was the easiest process ever, and I love the way that my blog looks. One of the things I've really loved about Squarespace is when you're designing your page layout, you can easily toggle between what type of device you would like to preview your page from. So you can view it from like a desktop perspective, and then you can click mobile and it'll change to like what it would look like on a phone. Also, Squarespace integrates into social media really easily, so you can connect your social profiles to auto post to like Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr. And then another really cool thing you can do on Squarespace is you can geotag the location of your posts, which is cool if you do any kind of travel content, because then you can actually geotag the post to the area of the world that it's about. So head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and then when you're ready to launch your site, head to squarespace.com/Allison Anderson to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks, Squarespace. And that's it for today's video, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.